welcome to this new special episode of Continuum Gaming, accompanying the episode 130 of Continuum Gaming, of course. And today I want to show you a couple of different devices you can use to connect your smartphone, for example Lumia 950 XL with Continuum or anything else, to bigger display, for example, and stuff like that. And for that you already know a couple of different devices I'm using here. For example, the display dock, which is the gold standard more or less. It's at this point here, but I want to show you a couple of alternatives to that. And for example, I'm going to show you the KiWiBiRD one I have here. It's more or less USB-C multifunctional hub, whatever, that can do a lot of the stuff that, for example, the display dock can do too. And I have another candidate to do that from Hama in this case, and this one can more or less do most of the things too. And they have a couple of different options and things, and because of that I want to show you what's going to happen here and what can be done with them. Yeah, and here you can see the different devices which can be used to connect, for example, a Continuum-based smartphone to a display, or for example a TV, or whatever you want them to be connected to. And those devices are doing small little things a little bit different, so I want to show you what's going on here with these devices and what the purpose of all of them is. First off, this is our gold standard, of course, so we have the display dock by Microsoft, as you can see. Quite a heavy device, and it has an USB-C adapter at the front where you can put in a own cable, for example. Then at the bottom here, or at the back, better to say, at the back, we have USB-A adapters. 3 are there. And we can, for example, use a display port or an HDMI cable to connect, for example, our TV or for example our display from our computer or whatever to this device. And there is a USB-C port at this point. This one is that the device can be powered with power, more or less. So this is the only device, I think at least, that is used to charge, for example, your smartphone too, which is quite a good thing if you ask me. Yeah, and as I said before, it's quite heavy, so this one is really meant to be placed on your desk, for example, or at a stationary position. And there it is that kind of heavy that there will be no problems with, for example, some cables which are trying to push it from your table or something, or pull it from your table. It's not going to happen because this one is really quite heavy. In comparison to that, all of the other devices here are very, very light. So I will show you that later on, because I have my scales here to show you what the difference is there. But first let's have a look at the KiWiBiRD one, so just let's unpack that. So first off, this is the package which it came in. And yeah, quite simple one if you ask me, but whatever, it really does the job quite well. You can open it, there is this little bag in there, and in the back, of course, there is some kind of a manual in there, but that's all that's in this package. And in the back itself there is the device, and the device is really looking quite nicely if you ask me. So let's put that down. As you can see, it's with rounded edges at this point. It's a nice little device, has this metallic feel to it, so it's quite aluminium if you ask me, for example, and really a nice little device here. It has an HDMI adapter there, so there is no display dock at this point or whatever, or display port, sorry, at this point. You can attach 2 different USB-A cables to it, and it has some kind of a SD card reader, for example, for micro SD and for the real deal SD cards, which are, for example, used in cameras, for example, if you want to use that. And this is more or less what the device has to offer. Of course, there is this cable, which is just an USB-C cable, as you can see, to be put into your device, like for example the Lumia 950 XL or whatever you are using there. And this is more or less this. yeah, looks quite nice if you ask me. I like it a lot, and this is how this is looking. Okay, so let's put that aside. We'll just put it here, and let's have a look at the Hama solution they are offering us here. The Hama solution, as you can see, is more or less a little bit bulkier, but in the end quite equal to the KiWiBiRD solution, but there are a little bit of difference in here. I'm just going to open this. I already opened it, but it's a nice little package for this kind of bad packaging. You all know about that. You can open it by hand, you don't have to use scissors for it, so a little bit better than all the other stuff, but still not the wealthiest stuff, or whatever you want to call that. Okay, so let's have a look at this device. As you can see, it's a little bulkier. I'm just comparing it at the moment here. As you can see, it's a little bit bulkier, so a little bit higher, whatever you want to call that. Depending on the weight, it's more or less the same. I'm going to show you that this is a little bit lighter, but really not much. And yeah, if we have a look at the connection options, we have a little bit different ones. Of course, the USB-A cables are the same. So you can, for example, put in your gamepad, or you can, for example, put in your mouse and your keyboard into that with no problem, and at this point too. There is a difference that here is another USB-C connector at this point, which could be quite interesting to connect, for example, another smartphone to this, or something like that. So you can, for example, transfer data between the two, or whatever you want to do. I don't think this is used to be powering this device, but I still have to see if this is really the case, because I just didn't test it till now. And yeah, there's not much more to it, as you can see. Just the USB-C connector here to be put into your smartphone, of course, to connect something to it. And yeah, of course, you already know, here are the wireless display adapter, I think that's the name of it, which is the version 1 I have here. So just an HDMI cable with an USB-A connector at it, which is powering the device. So your display, for example, needs to have some kind of an USB-A cable adapter there, or you need to put in, for example, your power bank or whatever to this part. And then there is this HDMI cable connected to be put into your display. And the difference between the first one, generation 1, and the second generation we have here is that the part you have to put into your TV, for example, is quite a lot larger. So if, for example, you're going to have a wall-mounted solution or something for your TV, then this is probably not going to work very well, because you really need all this space. If your TV, for example, is at this point and needs to be put in like that, and here is the wall, you really have a problem there. For that, there is the version 2 of it. I'm just going to put it here. The version 2 is more or less just the same as the first one, but you can put this just to hold the plugs more or less clean. Very nice solution, if you ask me. And in this case, you just have smaller parts. So the first part for the USB-A cable here is a little bit longer, of course, but the cool thing is that the HDMI part is really maybe half that long as the first one, and like that, this one can be used with, for example, a wall-mounted TV or something very easily in general. Yeah, and of course there is not much more to these. So these versions here, these wireless adapters, need some kind, for example, of Bluetooth device to connect the devices with it, and you can't, for example, just put in, I don't know, an USB-A cable or whatever. So if you want to use this and you need to put in, for example, I don't know, an USB-C, an USB stick or something to your device, then you would have to have another adapter for that. I have it somewhere, there are some, but yeah, this is just more unpractical if you are using it in this situation. for that situation you may want to use one of these, for example, just in case you need to carry it around because they are light, and still you can use them in a more or less wireless way. The bad thing about it is, of course, that you can't carry your smartphone in the room or something, because of course it needs to be there where the HDMI cable is too. This is the difference. If you, for example, need to go for a presentation or something, those two devices are less idle to use in comparison to these here. Okay, so and let's have a look at the weight of the devices here. I already promised to do that, and here is just my my scales, my kitchen scales, and let's have a look. This is a KiWiBiRD one, just putting it on here. It's about, yeah, short of 50 grams, so a little bit lighter than, for example, this one, which is of course a little bit bigger too. So, but there's not much that is the difference here. So this is 51 grams, and this one I think is 48 or something. It's really not a big difference here. But if we, for example, have a look at the display dock from Microsoft, let's have a look. This one is a lot heavier, so something, yeah, just a little bit short of 230 grams at this point. And of course we can have a look at the version 1 of the display, wireless display adapter I think it's called. It's 31 degrees. And the version 2 is, yeah, more or less the same. So there's not much difference between those, 32 degrees in this case, but really all of them are quite light, with the exception of the display dock here, which is really quite a heavy device. So use it for stationary stuff. There it really is a great device, and it really helps that it has this kind of weight to it. So it really is a nice addition there, because it's just very easy to use that, and no cable will try to pull this device from your desk or something, because it's just too heavy for that. Yeah, and there you have it. So let's have a look what we can do with these devices, and if there are different options here, or if there is something that we need to know about these devices, if there's some kind of a limitation or whatever to one of these, or maybe even that one, just in case. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, and here you have the setup I'm going to use here to test different things out with all of these devices. Of course we will have the display dock as a gold standard, which really can do everything, and then we will just test out what these two devices can do. I'm probably not going to test the wireless ones. I have another video where I'm testing that, so you can have a look at that for that. But in general, this is more or less what we are going to try out. So we are going to try out to connect, for example, a USB mouse with it. It's really a wired one with a USB-A cable, of course. I'm going to connect a keyboard with it. This keyboard is a little bit of a special one because it's a PS2 keyboard, and I'm using this adapter here to connect it with this USB adapter here, to have a USB port, of course, because there's no device here with a PS2 adapter, of course, because it's very old, nobody is using it today. Probably a few gamers are using it, but most of the people have just left that kind of boat there. And then we, for example, have a gamepad here with a USB-C wired cable, so cable on it, and that we will be going to test out. And of course, I have for a few of the devices, or better to say one, I have a SD card here just to read it. It's really a very small one because I'm not using SD cards that much, and this one is really an ancient one I just had around, and it's an 8 megabyte card, so not gigabyte or something, megabyte we are talking about. So on this are just a couple of images I put on that, just to be able to read it and see if we can, for example, read from this card. And we have a USB stick at this point, which has, I think, a capacity of 64 gigabytes, so something quite new. And we will test that out with all of the devices. And this one can only be tested with, I think it's a KiWiBiRD one, because this one has a card reader in it. And so we are going to test it with that. And yeah, this is more or less what we have as a setup here. Of course, for a couple of devices here, we need some kind of a connector. Of course, the display dock itself needs one, because otherwise you can't connect something with it. It's just using an extension cable, more or less. And one of the devices here has his own connection cable or connection port there, and we will try to do something with it. For example, we will test if we can, for example, load it with it, so that, for example, the smartphone can be loaded using this device and another cable with it, for example. Better to say not this one, but the one I have at the back here. And that will be tested, and we will, for example, try to connect this with another smartphone, as, for example, and see if that is happening. If you want to have a spoiler here, it's not going to work, but it could, if the OS could understand that. So if, for example, you are not using Windows Mobile or something, maybe it's working, I'm not sure. But we will see what's going on there. Yeah, and first off, I want to connect everything to show you that the display dock here can do it, and after that we are going to see if the other devices can do it. So first off, I will just connect the display dock with this extension cable, so that we can connect it with our smartphone, of course. And then I'm going to power this, because the display dock itself needs external power source, which is another USB-C cable. And the USB-C cable itself is just plugged into some kind of a, yeah, more or less handy or a smartphone charger, or whatever you want to call that. And of course we need to power this display with it, the HDMI cable here. So we are just going to put in an HDMI cable at this point. So this should do it. And now I'm just going to connect my smartphone with the USB-C cable here. And after a short while you will have a vibration on your smartphone then, and as you can see we have a part here. I now have to unlock my smartphone, of course. I used the iris scanner for that, and now we are through that. I can click on the blue bar at the top, and now I can, for example, use that to connect it. Okay, so this is working. And the second part I want to test is this USB mouse. Just a normal mouse from Revoltech, I think. And it's going to be connected to the display dock. So display dock has all the different connections at the back. And it has 3 USB ports, which is quite a good thing, because we can connect everything we want here at once, or more or less everything that makes sense at once, more or less. So we are just going to connect our mouse now. Put that down again. And I'm going to try to put it on here, because my mouse is not responding perfectly on this ground here, but on the sheet of paper I have here, everything is working fine. So as you can see, we have no lag, we have everything in touch here. It's working as it should. And we can, for example, I don't know, click on the start menu, for example, and we have a right response, everything is fine. So this is working. Now let's have a look at our keyboard here. So keyboard, just a wired one, looks like that. It's one very old one from Logitech. And as I mentioned before, we have this kind of connection there. And I'm going to connect that now. So using this cable here, and I'm going to put it into the second slot here. Okay. And now we can just, for example, test out if I can activate, for example, with the Windows button, the start menu, and as you can see, we can do that quite fine. The action buttons, for example, on this keyboard are working too. So if I click on that, I can, for example, increase and decrease sound volume. I can even mute it and stuff like that, so should work here. Okay. And of course we can test the gamepad in addition to all of that, because as I mentioned before, this display dock has 3 different USB-A ports, which is unique to this setup because the other ones here will not be able to do that. I just connected that there. I can now, for example, go to a game here. Just click on that. And now we will have to search for one of the games that can use Continuum with a gamepad. And for example, what was the name? It's tested on the episode, the normal episode of this part, so episode 130, and I think it's called just don't know it anymore. Let's see if I can find it in a fast way, otherwise we are going to use another game there. It's called Drifting, something with drift. So it is Drift Mania Championship 2. So I'm going to use that. And it really doesn't matter much which one I'm using, everything is more or less the same here. Just to let you know, there is a problem with both of these devices with games, and I will show you that in a second. With our display dock we don't have that problem. So all I want to do here, I'm not going to play it very much or something. If you want to know that game or see what that game can do for you, have a look at the normal episode. For now I'm just going to use my controller here and use, for example, the stick just to jump around in the menu a little bit, just to see if everything is working here. Okay. There we are. And if I want, for example, to use this now, you can see I can switch through the menu and everything is working fine. Okay, so let's close that one down. And you can see everything is working as it should. And I just turned down the volume a lot, just in case that you're wondering why we are not hearing much. It's all about the other devices, because as I will show you now, there are a couple of problems with games with these other devices. So everything is fine for everything else, but for games, these 2 devices have more or less the same problem, and you should be, more or less a little bit cautious about buying them if you are only gaming with this setup. Okay, so now let's just unplug everything here. So unplugging the Lumia 950 XL, of course. I'm unplugging my mouse at this point. Such a mess with all these cables here, but whatever. Let's unplug everything. HDMI cable is out too. And I'm just putting it here so you can see that we are not doing anything with this anymore. I'm just going to put everything a little bit in order again, so that it's better to see what I'm going to do here. And more or less I'm going to do the same with the other devices now. So let's put that one back. This is the extension cable. We are not going to use that for the next test here. Because of that I'm just putting it over here, whatever. And now let's see what we have to do. Let's start with the KiWiBiRD one. This is this. It has an HDMI cable connector at this point. It has 2 different USB-A ports, and it has this SD card reader, which is the interesting part about this one. I'm going to get rid of this little cap there, doesn't need that, and now, or don't need that. And now we can use the USB-C connector at this point and just connect that to our Lumia 950 XL. So first things first. Oh, and I put it in It doesn't really matter. I just put it in the wrong direction. This is one of the advantages of the USB-C connector, for example. You can just connect it in any way you want, because it doesn't matter which way or which way around you want to use it. USB-A, for example, has this kind of little, whatever that is called, a bar more or less of plastic there, and that is blocking you from putting it in the wrong way around, and it's often a problem for everybody, more or less, but whatever. And now let's see, we have of course this HDMI cable here, which is connected to the TV again, and we have a power cord. The power cord is not necessary for this device. There's no possibility to put it in, so we are not going to use this. This means that with the exception of the display dock, every device here needs to be powered by the smartphone itself. That means that the battery is getting empty faster, of course. I'm not sure how much that is really doing there. I didn't test it out or something, but it's the case, so just to let you know. So second part is I will connect the HDMI cable now to this port here. Let's do that. KiWiBiRD part here. Clicking on that. As you can see, we have the same setup part here on. I'm going to use the iris scanner, and we are in there. And as you can see, we have a quite good connection here. I can use my my touchpad on the smartphone here, to say the touch screen as a touchpad more or less, to control my mouse. At this point everything is working fine. Okay, so second part of this tryout here is I'm using this USB mouse. So just putting that into one of the ports. You can see there are the ports, and I'm going to use the first one. It really doesn't matter if it's the first or the second one, just so that it's there. And you heard that. That's a little notification sound that is going to happen each and every time I'm going to plug something in, and he is recognizing that. And as you can see, we can now use, for example, this mouse to turn the mouse pointer at this point around. I can use that. I can go to the start menu, for example, click with it, and everything is working as it should. Okay. So, second part of this test is, of course, I'm not going to use this for now, I'm just putting it here. The second part of this test, of course, is the keyboard. So I'm going to put that into the second port here. And there was this little notification sound that everything worked for this keyboard. I see already that there is something lit up, so a little bit of an LED that is lit up there. And if I, for example, press the Windows button, or I'm using the power keys here, or the sound keys, whatever, the volume keys on this keyboard, everything is working as it should. Okay, so this is working, and as mentioned before, this device doesn't have more than 2 USB-A adapters, so I have to unplug my keyboard in this case, because the keyboard, I don't really need it at the moment. You could, for example, use a keyboard which is connected by Bluetooth, or a mouse which is connected by Bluetooth, if you have something like that, and just use it in combination with each other. That's totally fine for everything here. But now let's have a look at this gamepad. Just to let you know, the gamepad itself will work too. There's nothing bad about that. The first problem we are going to see here is at another place. So let's start with our game. And it was, I'm using the on display keyboard now. It's Driftmania Championship 2. I'm not sure if the problem is only happening with this game here, or if it's something special for this game, but just to see what's happening here, I will just start that up. And now it's probably going to have a long continuous notification info, as you can see here. And this is something that is happening because there is some kind of audio in this game starting at this point. And as you can see, it's more or less unbearable. So I'm going to make my TV just soundless, more or less. So if you don't have a problem with that, making it soundless by the TV, everything is fine here. You can use it now. I will have to put in, see, some kind of a name for whatever reason. Let's use Fuhre here. I'm clicking on OK. And as you can see, the part itself is working. We can use it, but the problem is really that the sound here is going to be continuously there, and that is really not something you want to play with. So if you are fine with not playing with sound or something, everything is fine. You can use this device as you want. As you can see, we can move around. Our gamepad is working here, but something is not okay for it, and because of that we really can't really use it. And it's more or less about the sound of everything, I think. So if you are going to use, for example, music or something, and you want to have this connected to it, not a good idea. Don't do that, because sound is going to happen all the time here. Okay, so yeah, this is more or less what I can test with the input devices here. So next, what I want to do is I want to, first off, I'm going to get rid of, this one would have been the right one, sorry. I'm going to get rid of this gamepad at the moment, for the moment, and I'm going to use my mouse, of course, so just I'm going to put that in again. And what I wanted to test here is, of course, something that is unique to this KiWiBiRD device. Of course, it has this SD card reader, and I'm going to use this SD card now, just to show you that this is working. That can't be done with the display dock at all. Of course, the USB stick part can be done. I already did that. I think I didn't show it to you, but it's working. And I hope you just believe that from me here. I just did it a couple of times yesterday, and it really is working with the display dock, of course. But now let's have a look at this SD card reader. I'm going to use it, put it in here. Let's see, I think you should hear this information sound there. I'm just going to put it up again and put it in again. If it's not going to be there, then you may have to, there it is, to switch around the SD card, because you can put it in either way, but only one way is working there. Don't know why, but doesn't really matter. So let's have a look if we can have a look at that SD card and its content. So I'm just going to search for the file manager here. In German it's called Datei Explorer. I'm going to click on that. There we are. And as you can see, we have a couple of different drives on this. I don't know which one it is. I will just click through it. And as you can see, this is a USB drive. It's called USB drive, but this seems to be the one we are looking for, because we have a couple of images here. And if I'm going to double click on that, the image is going to be opening and everything is fine, and we can have a look at it. And this is a SD card, and just to show you that that is the case, I am going to have a look at the F port here. This one is empty, because it's a little bit of an interesting story here, because once I connected the device, it's shown here, and it's shown as long as I don't restart my phone for that, even if it's not connected to it. And if it's not connected, then you just see this, the folder is empty information there. Don't know why that is happening, but it's the case here. And after that, I'm just going to get rid of this SD card here. and as you can see, now these devices are gone. Okay, so next one is of course the USB stick at this point. You can see that already, and I'm going to try to put that into the second plug here. And if we wait a couple of seconds, you can see there's a new device. The information sound is there. If you don't like it, you are not alone. I don't like that quite high-pitched noise neither, but that's how that is done for some reason or the other. And if I, for example, click on that, you can see we have a video on it, we have a couple of images on it, and we have this Word doc on it. And if I, for example, want to have a look at the image here, I just double click on it and it's opening. Looks fine. And I can, for example, use the video file here too. If I do that now and play it, there is audio in this file, and like that we would have the long information sounds there, whatever that is called. Again, let's see if that is happening here. Yeah, there we are. So it's something with the sound with this device, and with the other one too, don't know why. With the normal, I'm going to close that now, with the normal display dock, it's not happening. Don't know why this is happening. So, I'm going to get rid of this now, just getting it out. And I think we tested everything here. This is more or less what this is about. So we have this little SD card reader if you need that for some reason or the other. This is a good device for that. It's a good device if you want, for example, only to use the Continuum experience here in a very portable way. Still wired then, but portable, and you want to use it, for example, to do some kind of professional work, working with Word, working with, I don't know, Excel or something. Then this is totally fine and you can use it. And as I said, it's very portable and looking quite neat here, or quite cool. Like that, neat, quite neat. And like that, it's a good device for that. But if you want to play, or if you want to, for example, stream video information or something with audio, of course, then something is going to happen here, and it's not working that nicely anymore, because we have this high-pitched noise which is going to be all the time there. And this is just nothing I can really suggest to buy if it's that way, if you want to use it in this case, of course. Okay, so I'm going to put my mouse over here now, and the SD card can't be used with another device, so I'm putting it here. As I said before, this is the right device for you if you want to use it, for example, as an SD card reader, and it's the only one that can do that. Okay, so now unplug the HDMI cable at this point. And of course I'm going to unplug it from my smartphone too. I'm just going to use this cap again, so it's not getting dirty in any kind of way. And now let's have a look at the second device here. This is the Hama one. It has more or less the same HDMI cable. It has the same principle concerning the USB-C adapter at this point, or the connection cable. We can just use that one. It's built in. There's no option to get rid of it or to replace it with something else. And of course we have two USB-A cables at this point, and we have an USB-C cable at this point too. This is something unique for our setup here, this USB-C cable. The bad thing about it, I will show you that later, is that you can't, for example, connect two smartphones with Windows Mobile on it, at least, to each other. But what you could do, for example, is you could use this to connect, for example, I don't know, let's say a MacBook, which already has this USB-C part here to connect with, and, for example, your smartphone while using some of the other devices here. So that could be a good idea for you if you're, for example, on a MacBook or using a MacBook Air or whatever. Maybe another device, don't know if there are others which are using the USB-C port more or less, and you can use it for that to connect the smartphone with your laptop then, if it's USB-C, and then you can, for example, transfer data or something like that. So let's connect it first to my smartphone here. Okay, it's already seeing that something is happening here. Now I'm going to put this one in, so the HDMI cable into this device. And we should sooner or later see something. There we are. We can now use our touchpad kind of way here to do everything we want. It's lag free, there's nothing happening here. Same as with the other devices, we can move our mouse around like that. Everything's fine there. So next test is of course the mouse itself, and USB mouse. We have two different USB plugs here, so we are going to put it in the first one, for example, or the second. I'm not sure which direction this is. And this is the first one, and we can of course use our mouse here, do something. You will hear more or less the same high-pitched noise with this device, so if you will connect something to it, there is a short little information sound. I'm not even sure if this is meant to be happening or if it's just something that is going to be there because I'm plugging something in and this is what's happening there for them. Don't know about that, but it's working like that. So second part what we are going to do is we are going to connect our keyboard to that. So just use the USB-A connector there, put it in. Wrong way, of course. Okay, so there was this information sound again, and if we are going to click, for example, on the Windows key, or we are going to increase or decrease the volume with it, everything is working as we saw it more or less with this device, or of course with the display dock itself. And now there is another test I want to show you, which is if we can, for example, use the power cable of the display dock here with this device, because it has this little USB-C data connector here, and it's a data connector that could tell you something already. So if this would be loading this for some reason or the other, you would see this little icon at the top here, so there would be that kind of arrow or lightning bug or whatever you want to call it at this point. So this is not charging the device, so this is nothing we can use there. I'm going to unplug it now again because it's just not doing anything at this point. And yeah, what we can test now is if we can, for example, use another smartphone with it. So connecting two smartphones would be a cool thing. So for example, for transferring stuff in a faster way than Bluetooth or something like that could do. For that, I have another smartphone here, which is my Alcatel Idol 4 Pro. It is Continuum enabled, and it has a USB-C connector at the bottom here, as you can see. And we can now, for example, try to use my extension cord from the display dock here, and just see if we can, for example, connect those two smartphones here. And the bad thing about it is it would work, but in this case, and you will see that sooner or later, it even notices that something is going on here, but the problem is that we get an information on the smartphones which is telling us that these two mobile devices cannot communicate with each other. It's of course in German, but it's written there, and it's telling us that we need to include, for example, a PC to handle that in some way or the other. If you click on that, you're going to be redirected to Edge in this case, and it's going to tell you exactly that. So there is of course this error message window where they are telling you these two PCs or mobile devices cannot communicate with each other, and there are possible reasons for that. One is that you can't connect two PCs with each other using a USB-C port like that, and you can't, for example, connect two smartphones with it using the USB-C port. You always need to connect a USB-C device like a smartphone with a PC or something, then it's going to happen, but it's not going to happen in the other way. That is more or less a limitation by the OS, and I think it's more or less something that should prevent you from trying to create a networking device, something like that. So for networking you need Ethernet or something, that would be cool, but that is not available for neither of these parts, and even not for the display dock itself. So that is not something you can do with it. So let's unplug that. I'm going to put this back at the point here, because this is all we can test with this, and there's nothing else we can have a look at here. And now let's have a look at how this one is going to behave with this playing music stuff. And of course, if for example the gamepad is working at all. For now I'm inputting that. Let's get rid of this connection part here, we don't need that. As you may have already noticed, it's the same notification sound again. I have put this one in now, and I'm just using my mouse at this point. Sorry for the wired mess or the cable mess here. And now I'm going to have a look at the game. Same one we tried a second ago, more or less. Sorry, have to go back, go to that. I'm going to use my smartphone to input Drift here to get Drift Mania. And as I mentioned before, this will be the same behavior more or less. So we are going to hear this high-pitched noise, whatever that is called, and it's not going to work if the music is going to start. Let's see. There we are. We have the same problem here. You can again put down the audio here, so mute it, and if you mute it, then you can try to use your gamepad, for example. That is going to work there. Again, like the first one, everything is fine with that, but audio is something you shouldn't do with it. And as you can see, I can move around in this menu here, for example, with my gamepad. Everything is fine. You should be able to play with it too. I did test that, but I didn't want to have all the loading times until I'm going to be in the game. And so, as I said before, it's not going to work perfectly because the sound problem is there. This one has the same problem as the KiWiBiRD one, so if you're using Hama or that one, doesn't matter in this case. The difference is really the additional stuff on this. So for example, at the KiWiBiRD one, we have the SD card reader and the smaller card reader, the micro SD card reader, for example. And at this point we have another connection point, for example, for a MacBook Pro or whatever you want to connect there with an USB-C cable. And yeah, I mentioned it before, you can't connect anything like, for example, a smartphone with a smartphone like that. You can't do it in a direct way neither. So if you try to just use those two connectors and just put one in the smartphone and the other one in the other smartphone, it's not going to work like that neither. So you really need to have some kind of a PC or a MacBook in between to use it. And now we can, for example, just get rid of our gamepad here, and just to make it a fully review or whatever, and everything is the same here, I'm going to use this, this USB stick with this device too. And this should be working, as you may already have noticed. There we have it, we have this ESD USB part, and we can, for example, now access one of the images here, as this one. We can access the video. Video will have the same problem with the audio part there, and we could, for example, try to open this article here to write on it and open it with Word, and this should be working too. Let's wait a little. It's 20 MB big, so it might take a couple of seconds. Yeah, and there we are. We have our part here. We can have a look at our Word document from our USB card here, or better to say the USB stick in this case, and this is more or less working with everything here. Yeah, and that is more or less what I can show you about all of these devices. As you may already have noticed, all of them are quite okay for several workspace or working cases, but not for everything, and like that. You should really have a look which one you want here. It's really all about the SD card or the USB port, C port at this point. I like this a little bit better for the clean look and the feeling of it. But if you, for example, need something that is really bridging through another USB-C port or something, then this is a good idea to use. And like that you can, for example, plug in your mouse, your keyboard or whatever, and another device. And of course, for this is only interesting for the parts where you have to be not ultra mobile, but quite mobile. Ultra mobile would be, for example, the display dock or the display wireless display adapter, I think it's called. Then I would recommend you that one, because this one can be used in a different way there. As I mentioned before, have a look into the corner over there, I think somewhere there, and the corner will show you a couple of other options and how this is used more or less. And yeah, this I think is more or less what I wanted to show you, and that's it. As you can see, there are a couple of different devices for each and every use case more or less, and each of them has advantages and disadvantages for the other use case, of course. And so you might want to check which one is the right one for you, and as you can see, there are a couple of them out there, so have a look at them and try it out. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening. If you want to subscribe to this channel, there is a subscription button right down below. Have a look at that. Of course, there's a bell button too, so you don't miss any kind of episode I'm doing here in future, for example. And thank you for watching, thank you for listening. If you liked this episode, please have a look at the like button and give it a thumbs up, of course. And other than that, thank you for listening, thank you for watching. I hope you will see us in the next episode of Continuum Gaming, or in the normal episode, which is of course available more or less at the same time like this video too. And so thanks for watching, thank you for listening. Till the next time, and see you soon!